Ladies and gentlemen, today I want to share with you a simple but powerful principle that has the power to transform your life completely. That principle is, put God first. In the hustle and bustle of our daily lives, we often chase success, money, recognition, or even love. We set goals, make plans, and work tirelessly. But sometimes, despite all our efforts, we feel empty, frustrated, or lost. Why does this happen? The answer is simple. We have put everything else before God. When we put God first, life aligns itself in ways we could never imagine. This is not just a spiritual concept, it's a life-changing strategy. When you prioritize God, you are prioritizing wisdom, guidance, peace, and purpose. When we talk about putting God first, the first and most fundamental truth we must understand is that God is the foundation of our life. Just as a building cannot stand tall and strong without a solid foundation, our lives cannot achieve true stability, purpose, and fulfillment without God at the center. Many people live their lives building on temporary, weak, and unreliable foundations. Money, fame, relationships, personal ambition, or fleeting pleasures. These things, while they can bring temporary satisfaction, cannot provide the strength, stability, and peace that a life built on God can. When challenges come, and challenges always come, they shake everything built on a weak foundation. Fear, doubt, anxiety, and despair overwhelm those who have tried to build a life without God, because the very foundation they relied upon was never meant to sustain the storms of life. But when God is placed at the center, when He is the foundation of every decision, thought, and action, life transforms. The chaos of uncertainty turns into clarity, and the turbulence of life's storms becomes navigable because there is an anchor that is steadfast and unshakable. Putting God first means recognizing that all that we are, all that we have, and all that we hope to become begins with Him. Our talents, our skills, our intelligence, our wealth, our relationships, all of these are blessings that flow from the source of life. And when we fail to acknowledge God as the foundation, we often take credit for what we have. We become prideful, and we forget that nothing in life is truly under our control. This acknowledgement is not simply a matter of saying God is first with our lips. It is a matter of living every moment with the awareness that God is the source of every breath, every opportunity, and every success. It is an understanding that life is not just a series of random events, but a journey guided by divine wisdom. When we live with God as the foundation, we begin to see life through a lens of faith, not fear, and we begin to make choices that are aligned with truth, integrity, and purpose. A life built on God as its foundation is a life of stability. When challenges arise, whether it's financial struggle, relationship problems, health issues, or career setbacks, the person who has God first is not shaken. They do not crumble under pressure because their confidence is not rooted in circumstances, but in the eternal and unwavering nature of God. This does not mean life will be free of difficulties, but it means that even in the most difficult moments there is hope, strength, and direction. The storms of life are no longer terrifying because there is an anchor that holds firm. God as the foundation teaches us resilience, patience, and trust. It reminds us that every setback is temporary, every challenge is an opportunity to grow, and every obstacle is a chance to rely on divine guidance, rather than solely on our limited understanding. Building life on God also transforms the way we think about success and achievement. Many people measure success by wealth, fame, or social recognition. They work tirelessly to accumulate possessions, climb the corporate ladder, or earn praise from others, only to discover that even when they achieve these things, something is still missing. There is a void that cannot be filled with money, recognition, or material wealth. The person who has God as their foundation understands that true success is not measured by what is seen on the outside, but by what is rooted in the heart. It is measured by the quality of our character, the depth of our faith, the love we share with others, and the purpose we fulfill in alignment with God's will. When God is the foundation, success is not fleeting or dependent on circumstance. It is steady, lasting, and deeply satisfying. Furthermore, placing God first transforms our daily lives and the decisions we make. Every choice becomes an opportunity to honor Him, to seek His guidance, and to align our actions with His plan. From the small decisions of how we spend our time, to the bigger choices about career, relationships, and personal goals, having God as the foundation provides clarity. We no longer act impulsively, guided solely by desire, fear, or societal pressures. Instead, we approach life with intentionality, asking ourselves whether our actions are aligned with our values and with the divine purpose that God has for us. This conscious alignment leads to a life of meaning, direction, and fulfillment that cannot be achieved by following trends, chasing validation, or seeking worldly approval. Another powerful aspect of building life on God as the foundation is the cultivation of inner peace. When we put God first, we release the constant anxiety of trying to control every outcome. We accept that we do not have ultimate control over life's events, but we trust in a higher power that is infinitely wiser and capable. This trust allows us to let go of worry and fear, replacing it with faith and calm assurance. Inner peace is not the absence of problems. It is the presence of God in every problem, the knowledge that we are never alone, and the certainty that every challenge has a purpose within a larger plan. People who live with God as the foundation walk through life with a confidence and serenity that is magnetic and inspiring to others. Living with God as the foundation also affects how we relate to others. When God is first, our relationships are transformed by love, compassion, and forgiveness. We are less likely to act out of selfishness, anger, or pride, because our focus is on aligning with divine principles rather than personal gain. Our interactions become expressions of our faith, and we begin to see others not as obstacles or competitors, but as fellow travelers on the journey of life, each with their own challenges and blessings. This perspective fosters empathy, patience, and generosity, qualities that strengthen friendships, family bonds, and professional connections. Finally, building life on God as the foundation prepares us for lasting fulfillment. True fulfillment comes not from accumulating things or achieving external milestones, but from living a life aligned with a higher purpose. When God is the center, we are guided to pursue not only personal success, but also the betterment of others, creating a ripple effect of positive impact. Our lives gain meaning, our actions gain significance, and our hearts experience joy that is unshakable. In conclusion, putting God first as the foundation of your life is not just a spiritual concept, it is a practical, life-changing principle. It provides stability amidst chaos, clarity amidst confusion, peace amidst challenges, and fulfillment amidst pursuit. When God is the foundation, every decision, every action, and every relationship becomes an opportunity to live intentionally, to grow spiritually, and to experience life fully. Life built on God is not only successful in worldly terms, but, more importantly, it is rich in meaning, purpose, and everlasting peace. Begin today by placing God at the center of your life, and you will experience a transformation so profound that nothing in this world can shake your faith or your joy. When we talk about putting God first, the second essential truth we must understand is the importance of prioritizing our relationship with God above everything else in life. Too often people claim to believe in God, but they treat Him like an option or a backup plan, someone they turn to only when things go wrong or when life becomes unbearable. True transformation, true peace, and true fulfillment come when God is not just in the background of our lives, but at the forefront, occupying the most important place in our hearts. Prioritizing your relationship with God means making Him the guiding force behind every decision, every thought, and every action. It is a commitment that goes beyond mere words or rituals. It is a lifestyle, a mindset, and a daily choice. Many people fail to realize how much their lives are affected by where they place God on their priority list. If work, money, or social approval comes first, then God comes second or third, or worse, last. When that happens, life becomes a constant struggle because we are trying to navigate challenges without the guidance of the one who knows the beginning and the end. By contrast, when we prioritize God, everything else falls into perspective. Decisions that once seemed complicated become clearer. Challenges that seemed overwhelming become manageable. Life stops feeling like a random series of events and starts feeling like a purposeful journey, guided by wisdom that is higher than our own. Prioritizing God is not just about setting aside time for prayer or attending religious services. While those practices are important, they are only the beginning. The essence of prioritizing God is living in constant awareness of His presence, seeking His guidance in both big and small matters, and aligning your heart with His will. It means starting the day with Him, asking for wisdom, direction, and strength before you engage with the world. It means ending the day reflecting on your actions, seeking forgiveness where you have fallen short, and expressing gratitude for His blessings. It is a continuous conversation, a relationship that grows stronger each day as you intentionally make God your first thought, your first priority, and your first love. One of the most powerful ways to prioritize God is to align your goals and ambitions with His guidance. So often people set out chasing success, wealth, or recognition without asking whether these pursuits are in harmony with God's plan. They work tirelessly, sacrificing health, relationships, and peace, only to find that the achievements they hoped would bring happiness leave them feeling empty. When God is prioritized, you learn to seek His direction before setting your goals. You ask, "Lord, are these ambitions aligned with your purpose for me?" You listen for guidance, follow the path of integrity, and trust that God's timing and plan are perfect. This does not mean abandoning ambition or hard work. It means infusing your efforts with divine purpose, which multiplies the impact and fulfillment of everything you do. Prioritizing God also transforms the way we handle challenges. Life is full of obstacles, disappointments, and unexpected turns. When God is not the center, we face these moments with anxiety, fear, and confusion. But when God is prioritized, even the hardest trials become opportunities for growth and learning. You begin to see setbacks as temporary, problems as lessons, and difficulties as moments where your faith can be strengthened. The relationship with God provides resilience. It gives you a source of strength beyond your own capacity, allowing you to face adversity with courage, patience, and hope. It is this relationship that prevents despair from taking root and turns fear into faith. Another critical aspect of prioritizing God is the way it shapes our thoughts, attitudes, and behaviors. When God is first, our perspective changes. We begin to think less about selfish desires and more about higher principles. We start acting with integrity, compassion, and humility because our motivation is no longer only personal gain, but alignment with divine purpose. Prioritizing God creates a filter through which we view the world. We develop patience where we once had frustration, forgiveness where we once held grudges, and generosity where we once acted with self-interest. In essence, our relationship with God transforms us from the inside out, influencing every aspect of our lives and interactions with others. The priority we give to God also impacts how we spend our time and energy. Time is the most valuable resource we have, and where we invest it reflects our true priorities. If we spend hours pursuing worldly distractions while neglecting spiritual growth, we are not truly putting God first. When we prioritize Him, we intentionally carve out time for prayer, meditation, reflection, and service. These practices strengthen the bond with God, deepen understanding, and provide clarity for the decisions we face daily. Over time, this intentional focus becomes a habit, and our lives naturally align with purpose, peace, and fulfillment. Moreover, prioritizing God strengthens our faith. Faith is not a static belief, it is a dynamic trust that grows as we experience God's presence and guidance. The more we seek Him first, the more we witness His faithfulness, provision, and love. We see doors opening, problems resolving, and blessings flowing in ways that cannot be explained by effort alone. This experiential knowledge of God's presence reinforces trust, and trust leads to confidence in every area of life. The person who prioritizes God moves forward boldly, knowing that even when circumstances appear uncertain, they are guided by divine wisdom. Prioritizing God is also about surrender, surrendering our control, ego, and self-centered ambitions to His greater plan. It is recognizing that our understanding is limited and God's wisdom is infinite. This surrender is not weakness, it is strength. It frees us from the burden of trying to force outcomes and allows us to move in harmony with the natural flow of life. When we place God first, we stop struggling against the current and start moving with purpose, guided by a higher intelligence that always knows the right direction. Finally, prioritizing your relationship with God is life-transforming because it touches every area of existence. Your mindset becomes positive, your actions become purposeful, your relationships become loving and meaningful, and your life becomes a testament to faith, hope, and divine guidance. Prioritizing God is not a temporary change. It is a lifelong commitment that grows deeper and stronger with every choice, every prayer, and every act of trust. In conclusion, prioritizing your relationship with God is not about rituals, appearances, or obligation. It is about intentionally placing God at the center of your life, seeking His guidance, and aligning your thoughts, decisions, and actions with His will. When you do this, life transforms. Challenges become manageable, decisions become clear, peace fills your heart, and fulfillment becomes natural. A life where God is prioritized is a life that is strong, resilient, and guided by eternal wisdom. Begin today by making God your first thought, your first choice, and your first love. Prioritize your relationship with Him, and you will experience a transformation that touches every area of your life, creating purpose, joy, and success beyond your imagination. One of the most powerful transformations that occurs when we put God first in our lives is the ability to trust Him over our worries. Worry is one of the heaviest burdens a person can carry. It steals our peace, clouds our judgment, and drains our energy. We worry about our future, our health, our finances, our relationships, and countless other things. Often, we worry about things that never even happen, imagining the worst-case scenario over and over in our minds. Worry convinces us that we must control everything, plan everything meticulously, and fix every problem ourselves. And yet, no matter how much we worry, it does not change the outcome of life's challenges. Worry only amplifies fear, stress, and anxiety, keeping us trapped in a cycle of mental and emotional exhaustion. When we put God first, however, a remarkable thing begins to happen. We learn to trust Him over our worries. Trusting God is not a passive or naive belief that everything will just work out. It is an active, conscious decision to surrender control to a power greater than ourselves, to place our concerns, fears, and uncertainties in the hands of someone who sees the bigger picture. God knows the past, present, and future, and His wisdom is infinite. While we can see only a small portion of our lives, God sees the entire journey. Trusting Him means acknowledging that we do not have to carry the full burden alone, because we are guided, supported, and protected by divine intelligence. Trusting God over worry begins with a shift in mindset. We start to see that worry is not a necessary response to uncertainty, but a choice to rely on our limited understanding instead of God's limitless power. When we place God first, we begin to replace worry with prayer, fear with faith, and anxiety with assurance. We begin to understand that worrying does not add a single moment to our lives or solve a single problem. Instead, trusting God empowers us to focus on the actions we can take while surrendering the outcomes to His care. It allows us to live fully in the present moment, confident that God is already working behind the scenes to guide, protect, and provide for us. This trust is not built overnight. It grows gradually as we experience God's faithfulness in our lives. Each time we face a challenge and see His guidance or intervention, our trust deepens. Perhaps it is a financial need that seems impossible to meet, and yet a solution appears at just the right time. Perhaps it is a relationship conflict that seems irreparable, and yet peace and understanding emerge. Perhaps it is a personal struggle or a health challenge, and yet strength and resilience arise within us. These moments teach us that when we prioritize God and trust Him over our worries, He is always at work, orchestrating circumstances for our highest good. Putting God first also transforms the way we respond to life's uncertainties. Before we make decisions, we pause and ask for His guidance. Instead of panicking or overanalyzing every possibility, we turn to prayer and reflection, seeking clarity and direction. This practice of seeking God first instills a sense of calm and confidence. Even in situations that seem daunting or impossible, we carry a quiet assurance that God is in control. We no longer feel the need to micromanage every detail of our lives because we understand that ultimate control rests with Him. This trust replaces anxiety with peace, hesitation with courage, and fear with hope. Another profound aspect of trusting God over worry is that it strengthens our resilience. Life is unpredictable, and setbacks are inevitable. Financial difficulties, health challenges, loss, and disappointments will come, regardless of our efforts. Those who live without trust in God often crumble under the weight of these challenges, becoming consumed by fear and despair. But those who put God first develop an inner resilience rooted in faith. They face difficulties with the confidence that God is not only aware of their situation, but is actively guiding them through it. This trust enables them to persist, adapt, and rise above obstacles with courage and determination. Trusting God also changes the way we perceive problems. Challenges are no longer seen solely as threats, but as opportunities for growth, learning, and spiritual strengthening. Worry keeps us focused on potential failure, but trust shifts our attention to solutions, possibilities, and divine support. We begin to see each trial as a stepping stone, a chance to deepen our faith and strengthen our character. With God as our foundation, every difficulty becomes meaningful, every obstacle becomes manageable, and every uncertainty becomes a chance to exercise faith. In addition, trusting God over worry frees us to focus on the present rather than obsessing about the future. Worry often traps us in a cycle of imagining worst-case scenarios, speculating about things that may never happen, and replaying past mistakes over and over. This mental pattern drains our energy, clouds our judgment, and prevents us from living fully. Trusting God shifts our focus to what we can control: the actions we take today, the love we give, the service we provide, and the faith we exercise. We learn that life unfolds one step at a time, and with God guiding our journey, each step leads us closer to the fulfillment of His plan. Trusting God also strengthens our emotional well-being. Anxiety, fear, and worry take a heavy toll on our hearts and minds. Prioritizing God and placing our trust in Him provides emotional stability, peace, and confidence. We begin to recognize that our value and security are not determined by circumstances, opinions, or outcomes, but by the unwavering presence and love of God in our lives. This realization allows us to face challenges with grace, maintain composure under pressure, and respond to adversity with faith instead of panic. Perhaps most importantly, trusting God over worry deepens our relationship with Him. When we surrender our anxieties, fears, and uncertainties to God, we invite Him into every aspect of our lives. We acknowledge our dependence on Him, not as a sign of weakness, but as a demonstration of humility, faith, and wisdom. This trust fosters intimacy, a personal connection with God that grows stronger with each prayer, each act of surrender, and each experience of His guidance. The more we trust, the more we experience His faithfulness, and the more our hearts are transformed by His love. In conclusion, learning to trust God over worry is a life-changing principle. Worry is a natural human tendency, but it serves no purpose except to drain our energy, cloud our thinking, and steal our peace. When we put God first, we replace worry with faith, fear with confidence, and uncertainty with assurance. Trusting God does not remove challenges from our lives, but it provides a source of strength, clarity, and resilience that allows us to face any situation with courage and hope. It frees us to focus on what truly matters, live in the present moment, and grow spiritually, emotionally, and mentally. Prioritizing God and trusting Him over our worries transforms our lives from a state of anxiety and fear to one of peace, purpose, and fulfillment. Begin today by surrendering your worries to God, trusting His plan, and allowing His guidance to lead you through every uncertainty. When you do, you will discover that life becomes lighter, challenges become opportunities, and every day is filled with the peace and assurance that comes from a heart fully aligned with God. One of the most crucial aspects of putting God first in our lives is learning to align every decision with divine wisdom. Life is filled with choices, big and small, that shape our destiny, and every day we are presented with decisions that will impact our future. From the moment we wake up until we go to sleep, we are constantly making choices, some seemingly insignificant, and others life-altering. The quality of these decisions directly affects the course of our lives. Without God as the foundation, we often make decisions based on limited knowledge, emotions, pride, or pressure from others. We act impulsively, chase temporary pleasures, or follow the crowd, and the results can leave us disappointed, frustrated, or even lost. Aligning our decisions with God's wisdom, however, changes everything. It provides clarity, purpose, and assurance that the path we are taking is guided by a force greater than ourselves. When we seek divine guidance in our decisions, we acknowledge that our understanding is limited. Life is complex, and we cannot foresee all the consequences of our choices. Even our best judgment can be clouded by emotions, fear, or incomplete information. Divine wisdom, on the other hand, sees the bigger picture. God knows the beginning and the end, understands the hidden factors influencing every situation, and provides insight that goes far beyond human understanding. When we put God first and seek His guidance, we allow ourselves to make decisions that are not just smart in the moment, but aligned with a larger, purposeful plan for our lives. Aligning decisions with divine wisdom begins with intentionality. It requires pausing before acting and asking ourselves, am I making this choice with God in mind? It means seeking guidance through prayer, meditation, reflection, and studying spiritual principles. It also means listening deeply, not just for answers we want to hear, but for the guidance that aligns with truth and integrity. This process trains our hearts and minds to prioritize divine insight over impulses, social pressures, or fleeting desires. Over time, this intentionality becomes a habit, and decision-making transforms from a stressful, uncertain process into a confident, guided journey. The benefits of aligning decisions with divine wisdom are immediate and long-lasting. First, it brings clarity in situations that seem confusing or overwhelming. Life is full of uncertainty, and when we face tough choices, the natural human response is anxiety and indecision. But when we invite God into the process, clarity emerges. What once seemed complicated becomes understandable. We begin to recognize the right path, even if it is not the easiest or most obvious one. This clarity allows us to act decisively and confidently, knowing that our decisions are guided by wisdom that surpasses our own. Second, aligning decisions with divine wisdom reduces regrets. One of the greatest sources of frustration and sorrow in life is the realization that we made choices without considering the bigger picture or without seeking guidance. When decisions are made impulsively or selfishly, the consequences often bring pain, disappointment, or conflict. But when we place God at the center of our decision-making process, we act with greater discernment. We are less likely to be swayed by temporary emotions or external pressures, and more likely to make choices that lead to long-term benefit, peace, and fulfillment. Third, aligning decisions with divine wisdom fosters humility. One of the most common obstacles to wise decision-making is pride. We believe we know best, that our understanding is sufficient, and that we can navigate life alone. Yet time and again we see how limited our perspective can be. By seeking God's guidance, we acknowledge that we do not have all the answers and that we need help from a source greater than ourselves. This humility opens our hearts to insight, perspective, and opportunities that we may otherwise overlook. It allows us to act wisely, even in situations where our initial instincts may have led us astray. Aligning decisions with divine wisdom also strengthens our resilience in the face of challenges. Even the best decisions can lead to difficulties, setbacks, or unexpected outcomes. Life is unpredictable, and no matter how carefully we plan, challenges will arise. However, when our decisions are aligned with God's wisdom, we have a sense of peace and assurance, knowing that even setbacks have a purpose within His plan. We are better able to navigate adversity, adapt to changing circumstances, and maintain faith that everything is working together for our ultimate good. This trust allows us to move forward with confidence, even when outcomes are uncertain. Moreover, aligning decisions with divine wisdom improves our relationships and interactions with others. Many of the conflicts, misunderstandings, and disappointments in life arise from poor decision-making, whether in business, family, or friendships. When we seek God's guidance in our choices, we are more likely to act with fairness, honesty, and compassion. We consider not only our own desires, but also the impact of our decisions on those around us. This approach fosters trust, respect, and harmony in our relationships, and allows us to build connections that are strong, healthy, and enduring. Another powerful benefit of aligning decisions with divine wisdom is the sense of purpose it brings to our lives. Without guidance, life can feel aimless, and we may make choices that lead to temporary satisfaction, but no lasting fulfillment. When we make decisions in alignment with God, we move toward goals and outcomes that are meaningful and aligned with our higher purpose. Every choice becomes an opportunity to grow, serve, and contribute in a way that is consistent with divine principles. This sense of purpose transforms routine actions into meaningful steps along a path that fulfills our potential and brings lasting satisfaction. The practice of aligning decisions with divine wisdom also strengthens our spiritual growth. Each time we seek God's guidance, we deepen our relationship with Him. We learn to trust, listen, and obey. Over time, this process cultivates intuition, discernment, and moral clarity, allowing us to make wiser decisions even in the absence of immediate guidance. By making God central to our choices, we integrate spiritual principles into our everyday lives, ensuring that our actions reflect faith, integrity, and divine alignment. It is important to understand that aligning decisions with divine wisdom does not mean life will be free from mistakes or challenges. Humans are imperfect, and we will occasionally make errors or misjudge situations. However, when God is first, even our mistakes become opportunities for learning and growth. Divine wisdom provides a framework for understanding consequences, making corrections, and moving forward with greater insight. This alignment ensures that over time, our lives are shaped by purpose, integrity, and faith, rather than randomness or regret. Finally, aligning decisions with divine wisdom brings profound peace. One of the most stressful aspects of decision-making is the fear of making the wrong choice. But when we put God first, seek His guidance, and act in alignment with His principles, a deep sense of peace accompanies our actions. We may not always know the outcome immediately, but we trust that our path is guided, that our efforts are blessed, and that God's wisdom will direct us toward the best possible results. This peace allows us to act decisively, confidently, and without anxiety, knowing that we are walking in alignment with divine purpose. In conclusion, aligning decisions with divine wisdom is one of the most practical and powerful ways to put God first. It transforms uncertainty into clarity, reduces regret, strengthens relationships, fosters resilience, deepens spiritual growth, and brings a profound sense of peace. By seeking God's guidance in every choice, we ensure that our lives are not dictated by fear, impulse, or limited understanding, but are guided by wisdom that sees the bigger picture and knows the ultimate plan. Begin today by inviting God into your decision-making process, seeking His insight before acting, and trusting that His guidance will lead you toward a life of purpose, fulfillment, and peace. When decisions are aligned with divine wisdom, life becomes not only easier, but also far more meaningful, satisfying, and extraordinary. One of the most remarkable blessings that comes from putting God first in your life is the gift of inner peace. In a world filled with chaos, distractions, and constant demands, inner peace often seems impossible to attain. People search for it in their jobs, their relationships, their possessions, and their accomplishments. Yet true peace remains elusive. External success cannot calm a restless heart, and material wealth cannot silence the inner storms of anxiety, fear, or frustration. Inner peace is not something that can be bought or manufactured. It is a state of being that flows from a life aligned with God. When God is placed at the center of our lives, peace is no longer dependent on circumstances. It becomes a steady current that carries us through both the calm and the storm, the victories and the challenges. Building inner peace begins with trust. Trust that God is in control. Trust that His wisdom is perfect, and trust that His plan for your life is good. Many people try to control every detail of their lives, fearing that uncertainty will bring disaster. They plan endlessly, worry constantly, and attempt to manipulate circumstances to fit their desires. While effort and planning are important, the heart burdened by fear and doubt cannot experience true peace. When we put God first, we surrender the illusion of total control and accept that life unfolds under His guidance. This surrender does not mean laziness or inaction. It means acting with faith, making the best choices we can, and trusting that God will direct the outcomes according to His perfect wisdom. Inner peace is cultivated through a consistent relationship with God. When we start each day in prayer, reflection, or meditation, we invite His presence into our hearts. This practice reminds us that we are not alone, that we are guided and supported, and that there is a higher purpose behind every experience. By focusing on God, we shift our attention away from fears, anxieties, and external pressures, and we center ourselves in a place of calm and clarity. Over time, this daily habit strengthens our ability to remain peaceful even when life presents challenges. The peace that comes from God is not superficial. It is deep, abiding, and unshakable, providing a foundation that sustains us in every situation. Another crucial aspect of building inner peace is the alignment of our values with God's principles. When our actions, thoughts, and decisions are guided by divine wisdom, we experience harmony within ourselves. Conflict, guilt, and regret arise when we act against our conscience or compromise our values. But when God is first, our lives are guided by integrity, honesty, and righteousness. This alignment between our beliefs and actions eliminates internal tension and allows us to experience peace that comes from living authentically and purposefully. We no longer have to carry the weight of hypocrisy, self-doubt, or moral confusion because our foundation is anchored in truth. Building inner peace also requires letting go of the past and releasing control over the future. Many people are weighed down by regrets, mistakes, or unresolved pain. Others are consumed by worry about what may come, imagining worst-case scenarios or fearing failure. Both of these patterns rob the present of its joy and tranquility. Putting God first teaches us to release the past into His care and to trust Him with the future. We acknowledge that we cannot change what has already happened, and we cannot control every event that lies ahead. Instead, we focus on living faithfully in the present moment, confident that God's guidance will carry us forward. This release of control is not passive resignation. It is an active practice of faith that cultivates serenity and mental clarity. Inner peace is also strengthened by gratitude. When God is first in our lives, we begin to recognize and appreciate His blessings, even in the midst of challenges. Gratitude shifts our focus from what we lack to what we have, from fear to appreciation, from scarcity to abundance. This attitude of thankfulness fosters a sense of contentment and calm that external circumstances cannot disrupt. Even in difficult times, a heart centered on God can find reasons to rejoice, reasons to hope, and reasons to remain at peace. Gratitude becomes a daily practice that reinforces the foundation of inner tranquility. Another dimension of inner peace comes from forgiveness. Holding on to anger, resentment, or bitterness creates internal turmoil. It keeps us mentally and emotionally entangled in the actions of others or the injustices we perceive. When God is first, we are guided to forgive, not only for the sake of others, but for our own peace of mind. Forgiveness releases the grip of negative emotions and allows us to move forward without the burden of past grievances. By prioritizing God, we learn that peace is not simply the absence of conflict, but the presence of harmony within our hearts, a state that flourishes when we let go of what we cannot control and trust in divine justice and timing. Inner peace also grows through a sense of purpose. When our lives are aligned with God's will, every action gains meaning, and every challenge takes on a greater significance. We are no longer drifting aimlessly or acting solely on impulse. Our efforts are part of a larger plan guided by divine wisdom. This sense of purpose reduces anxiety and fosters confidence because we know that even when things are uncertain, our steps are directed by a higher intelligence that always seeks our good. Purpose gives our lives coherence and direction, which naturally fosters calm, steadiness, and peace. Putting God first also allows us to experience peace in relationships. Many people are troubled by conflicts, misunderstandings, or unfulfilled expectations in their interactions with others. When God is prioritized, we are guided to respond with patience, compassion, and understanding. We are less reactive, less defensive, and less likely to be consumed by anger or frustration. Peace becomes our default state because our focus is no longer on controlling or judging others, but on living according to God's principles and trusting Him with outcomes. Relationships become less stressful, more harmonious, and more fulfilling because our foundation is rooted in divine guidance rather than in reactive emotion. Finally, inner peace is a gift that grows as we experience God's faithfulness in our lives. Every time we trust Him, follow His guidance, and see the results of His providence, our hearts are strengthened. We become confident that no matter what happens, we are supported, guided, and loved. Challenges do not disappear, but our perspective shifts. We no longer see difficulties as threats, but as opportunities to deepen our faith and rely on God's wisdom. Peace becomes a natural expression of trust, faith, and alignment with divine purpose. In conclusion, building inner peace is one of the most profound benefits of putting God first. True peace cannot be found in external circumstances, wealth, or human approval. It flows from a heart anchored in God. By trusting Him, aligning our values with His principles, releasing the past, letting go of control over the future, cultivating gratitude, practicing forgiveness, finding purpose, and responding to relationships with compassion, we create a life filled with serenity, clarity, and joy. Inner peace is not just a fleeting feeling, it is a lasting state of being that transforms how we experience every moment. When God is first, peace becomes our constant companion, guiding us through the storms, strengthening our hearts in trials, and allowing us to live with confidence, hope, and fulfillment. Begin today by putting God at the center of your heart, mind, and life, and you will discover a profound, unshakable peace that transforms not only your inner world, but every aspect of your life. When we talk about putting God first in our lives, one of the most transformative benefits is that it strengthens character and integrity. Character is the foundation of who we are, our values, our moral compass, our ability to make the right choices even when no one is watching. Integrity is the alignment of our actions with our values, the consistency between what we believe and how we live. Both are essential for a life of purpose, success, and fulfillment. Without them, even achievements, wealth, and recognition can feel hollow or meaningless. By putting God first, we allow our hearts, minds, and actions to be guided by divine principles, shaping us into individuals of strength, honesty, and unwavering moral clarity. Strengthening character begins with a conscious decision to prioritize God in every area of life. When we put God first, our thoughts, decisions, and actions are influenced by a higher standard than personal gain, societal approval, or temporary pleasure. We begin to ask ourselves, what would God want me to do? Before making choices, especially difficult ones. This habit develops discernment, self-control, and moral courage, qualities that form the backbone of strong character. Over time, these decisions, consistently guided by God's wisdom, shape our personality, our habits, and our identity, creating a person who is dependable, honest, and trustworthy in every circumstance. One of the ways putting God first strengthens character is by teaching accountability. When God is at the center of our lives, we recognize that we are responsible not only to ourselves or to society, but also to a higher authority. This awareness encourages us to act with honesty, fairness, and humility, knowing that our actions are observed and that integrity matters more than temporary rewards or recognition. It prevents us from cutting corners, cheating, lying, or acting selfishly because we understand that true success is rooted in virtue, not deceit. Accountability to God reinforces moral strength, making it easier to choose what is right over what is convenient. Integrity, as a natural outcome of character, is shaped through consistency in thought, word, and deed. Putting God first ensures that we do not compartmentalize our lives, pretending to be one way in public and another in private. Instead, our lives become an authentic reflection of our values, beliefs, and faith. When we face challenges, temptations, or opportunities to compromise, integrity guides our actions. Even when no one is watching, we act in alignment with what we know is right. This inner consistency builds respect, trust, and admiration from others, while also giving us a deep sense of personal satisfaction and peace. People with integrity are not swayed by trends, peer pressure, or temporary gains because their decisions are rooted in a higher standard that cannot be shaken. Putting God first also develops humility, a key element of strong character. Humility is not weakness. It is the recognition that our abilities, talents, and achievements are gifts, not solely our own. When God is the foundation, we approach life with gratitude rather than entitlement, understanding that success is the result of effort combined with divine guidance. Humility allows us to acknowledge mistakes, learn from them, and seek forgiveness when necessary. It prevents arrogance and pride from clouding our judgment and encourages us to treat others with respect, kindness, and empathy. A humble heart is a strong heart because it is guided by truth rather than ego, and it consistently chooses what is right over what is convenient or self-serving. Another aspect of character strengthened by putting God first is resilience in the face of moral challenges. Life often presents situations where the right choice is difficult, unpopular, or even risky. Without a strong moral foundation, it is easy to give in to pressure, fear, or temptation. But a life rooted in God equips us with the strength to act courageously, to stand for truth, and to maintain integrity, even when circumstances are challenging. This resilience is not simply personal bravery. It is the result of faith, reliance on divine guidance, and a deep understanding that doing what is right has eternal significance. Individuals who put God first can face moral dilemmas with confidence, knowing that they are guided by wisdom far greater than their own. Putting God first also enhances empathy and compassion, essential elements of strong character. When we view life through the lens of God's love and principles, we see others as fellow human beings with struggles, hopes, and inherent worth. We are motivated to act with kindness, patience, and understanding, even when it is inconvenient or difficult. Compassion is not a sign of weakness, but a reflection of strength of character, and it flows naturally from a life centered on God. We learn to serve others selflessly, to forgive easily, and to uplift those in need. This empathy strengthens relationships, builds trust, and creates a positive ripple effect that extends far beyond ourselves. Another significant dimension of character and integrity shaped by putting God first is honesty and truthfulness. In a world where deception, manipulation, and half-truths are often normalized, choosing honesty can be challenging. But a life rooted in God makes truthfulness non-negotiable. We speak with sincerity, act with transparency, and fulfill our commitments faithfully. Integrity in words and actions creates credibility, reliability, and influence. People naturally gravitate toward those whose character is strong because they know they can trust them, depend on them, and rely on them in both good times and bad. Prioritizing God also fosters patience and self-discipline, two pillars of character that are often overlooked. Life does not always move according to our timetable, and immediate gratification can be tempting. When we put God first, we learn to wait, to persevere, and to act with thoughtfulness rather than impulsivity. We recognize that timing, effort, and preparation are part of a divine process that shapes outcomes for the best. Patience allows us to avoid hasty decisions that might compromise our integrity, while self-discipline ensures that we consistently act in alignment with our values, even when it is challenging or unpopular. Furthermore, putting God first encourages a long-term perspective on life. People often compromise character and integrity for short-term gain, recognition, or comfort. But when God is our priority, we focus on what has lasting value: spiritual growth, ethical living, and a life of meaningful impact. Decisions are evaluated not only by immediate outcomes, but by their alignment with God's wisdom and the ultimate purpose of our lives. This perspective ensures that our character is built steadily, our integrity remains intact, and our life reflects principles that endure beyond temporary circumstances. In conclusion, putting God first strengthens character and integrity in profound and lasting ways. It shapes our moral compass, fosters humility, builds resilience, nurtures empathy, reinforces honesty, cultivates patience, and aligns our actions with divine principles. A life rooted in God produces individuals who are consistent, reliable, and trustworthy, capable of navigating life's challenges with courage and grace. Strengthened character and integrity are not merely desirable traits. They are essential for a fulfilling, meaningful, and successful life. When God is first, our lives reflect strength of spirit, depth of virtue, and a commitment to living rightly in every situation. Begin today by making God the center of your thoughts, choices, and actions, and you will witness a transformation that shapes not only your character, but the impact you have on the world around you. One of the most profound and life-changing effects of putting God first is the way it transforms relationships. Relationships, whether with family, friends, colleagues, or even strangers, are a central part of our lives. They influence our happiness, our mental and emotional health, and even our sense of purpose. Yet, many people struggle in relationships because they approach them from a place of selfishness, insecurity, or misunderstanding. When God is not the priority, relationships often become sources of stress, conflict, and disappointment. We place our own needs, desires, and expectations above love, compassion, and understanding. We react impulsively, judge harshly, or seek validation from others rather than giving it. But when God is put first, everything changes. Our hearts, minds, and actions are guided by divine principles, transforming how we interact, communicate, and connect with others. Putting God first allows us to approach relationships with love and empathy, rather than judgment or criticism. When we center our lives on God's guidance, we begin to see others through His eyes, understanding that everyone has their own struggles, challenges, and perspectives. We become more patient, forgiving, and compassionate, recognizing that no one is perfect and that everyone is on a journey. This shift in perspective changes the dynamics of our relationships. Instead of reacting emotionally or selfishly, we respond with understanding and grace. Conflicts become opportunities for growth rather than battles to win, and misunderstandings are approached with curiosity and empathy instead of defensiveness. Transforming relationships through God begins with the way we communicate. When God is first, our words reflect His principles: honesty, kindness, and encouragement. We are less likely to speak out of anger, frustration, or pride. Instead, our speech becomes a source of healing, support, and positivity. Conversations are guided by patience, and even difficult discussions are handled with tact and respect. Over time, this consistency builds trust, strengthens bonds, and fosters a sense of safety in our relationships. People are naturally drawn to those whose words and actions reflect integrity, wisdom, and love. By prioritizing God, we cultivate the ability to listen deeply, speak truthfully, and act compassionately, transforming relationships into sources of mutual growth and understanding. Another way putting God first transforms relationships is by teaching us forgiveness. Holding grudges, harboring resentment, or seeking revenge creates tension and disconnection. It weighs heavily on our hearts and prevents us from experiencing the fullness of love and connection that God intends. When God is first, we learn that forgiveness is not optional, it is essential. Forgiveness does not mean ignoring wrongdoing or condoning harmful behavior. It means releasing the burden of anger and bitterness and allowing God's guidance to restore peace. By forgiving, we free ourselves and create space for reconciliation, understanding, and deeper connection. Relationships that might have been fractured or strained can be healed through the transformative power of forgiveness rooted in faith. Putting God first also transforms relationships by cultivating humility. Humility allows us to admit mistakes, apologize sincerely, and recognize the value of others. When we are guided by God, we are less likely to insist on being right or controlling every interaction. Instead, we approach relationships with a spirit of collaboration, respect, and love. We acknowledge that we do not have all the answers and that every person has something valuable to contribute. This humility fosters mutual respect and strengthens connections, making relationships more harmonious and resilient in the face of challenges. Prioritizing God also helps us develop selflessness in relationships. Too often, people approach relationships with a mindset of, "What can I get?" or "How will this benefit me?" Such an approach creates tension, disappointment, and imbalance. When God is first, we are guided to act with love and service, focusing on the needs, feelings, and well-being of others. This selflessness does not mean neglecting our own needs, but it shifts the primary motivation from selfish gain to genuine care. Acts of kindness, support, and generosity naturally flow from a heart aligned with God, strengthening bonds and creating lasting, meaningful relationships. Putting God first also encourages patience in relationships. Every connection involves differences in personality, opinion, and behavior. Without patience, minor disagreements can escalate into major conflicts, and misunderstandings can fester into resentment. When God is our guide, we learn to approach others with patience, understanding that growth and change take time. We become more tolerant of imperfections and more willing to invest effort into nurturing relationships. Patience allows relationships to flourish, even when challenges arise, because we are not reacting impulsively, but responding with thoughtful care. Another powerful way God transforms relationships is by fostering accountability and integrity. Relationships thrive when there is trust, honesty, and consistency. When God is first, we act in ways that are consistent with His principles, even when no one is watching. We keep our promises, act with integrity, and are reliable in our words and actions. This reliability builds trust, the foundation of all strong relationships. People feel safe confiding in us, collaborating with us, and relying on us because our actions reflect our values and faith. Trust, once established, strengthens relationships in ways that are enduring and deeply meaningful. Putting God first also enables us to navigate difficult relationships with wisdom and grace. Every life has relationships that are challenging, whether due to misunderstandings, differing values, or past hurt. When God is the center of our lives, we are guided to approach these situations with discernment rather than impulsivity. We are equipped to set healthy boundaries, communicate effectively, and respond with love rather than anger or bitterness. Even relationships that are complicated or strained can be approached with hope and a constructive mindset, creating opportunities for reconciliation, understanding, and growth. Moreover, prioritizing God transforms the way we see and appreciate others. We begin to recognize the inherent value and dignity in every person, regardless of their background, behavior, or status. This perspective fosters inclusivity, respect, and deep empathy. We are less likely to judge, criticize, or compare, and more likely to celebrate the uniqueness and contributions of others. By seeing people as God sees them, we cultivate a sense of connection and belonging that strengthens relationships and encourages mutual growth. In conclusion, putting God first has the power to transform relationships in profound and lasting ways. It changes how we communicate, how we forgive, how we approach challenges, and how we love. Relationships that once felt stressful or superficial become sources of joy, support, and growth. By centering our lives on God, we cultivate empathy, humility, patience, selflessness, integrity, and trust, all of which are essential for healthy and meaningful connections. Every interaction becomes an opportunity to reflect God's love and wisdom, creating relationships that are not only stronger, but also deeply fulfilling. When God is first, our relationships become a reflection of His presence in our lives, radiating peace, love, and harmony to everyone around us. One of the most powerful benefits of putting God first in your life is that it inspires purpose and direction. Many people go through life feeling lost, uncertain, or aimless. They may accomplish goals, earn recognition, or achieve success, yet they still feel a void inside, a sense that something is missing, or that their life lacks true meaning. This emptiness arises because when God is not the center of our lives, our decisions, goals, and actions are often guided by temporary desires, societal pressures, or fleeting motivations. We focus on things that bring momentary satisfaction, such as wealth, status, or approval, but fail to align our efforts with a higher, eternal purpose. Putting God first, however, changes everything. It provides clarity, direction, and a sense of meaning that transcends circumstance, giving every step, every decision, and every action a deeper significance. Inspiring purpose begins with understanding that our lives are not random or accidental. Each one of us is created with intention, gifted with unique talents, and placed in specific circumstances for a reason. When God is first, we recognize that our existence is part of a divine plan, and this realization transforms the way we approach life. Instead of wandering aimlessly, we begin to seek His guidance in discovering our calling, our strengths, and the contributions we are meant to make. This pursuit of divine purpose transforms mundane tasks into meaningful acts, turning every challenge, opportunity, and interaction into a stepping stone toward fulfilling our destiny. Putting God first also provides direction by helping us distinguish between what is truly important and what is merely distracting. In a world full of noise, obligations, and temptations, it is easy to become sidetracked by activities that do not contribute to our long-term well-being or spiritual growth. By seeking God's guidance first, we gain clarity about priorities. We begin to focus our energy, time, and resources on pursuits that align with His will rather than being consumed by trivial matters. This focus reduces confusion, eliminates wasted effort, and enables us to pursue goals that are meaningful, impactful, and lasting. A life centered on God also inspires a sense of mission that fuels motivation. When we understand that our actions are part of a larger purpose guided by divine wisdom, we are empowered to work with determination, persistence, and passion. Challenges no longer feel like obstacles to be endured. They become opportunities to grow, serve, and fulfill the role that God has designed for us. Even mundane tasks gain significance because they are viewed through the lens of divine purpose. We are no longer performing actions simply for recognition, reward, or survival. We are participating in something far greater than ourselves, something eternal, meaningful, and transformative. Putting God first also strengthens decision-making, which is essential for direction. When we prioritize God, we make choices that align with His principles and guidance. Every decision becomes a step along a purposeful path rather than a random reaction to circumstance. Whether choosing a career, a relationship, a lifestyle, or even daily routines, decisions made with God at the center are infused with clarity and direction. This alignment reduces the uncertainty, fear, and hesitation that often accompany decision-making, allowing us to move forward confidently, knowing that we are walking in the path He has designed for us. Purpose inspired by God also provides resilience and perseverance. Life is inevitably filled with setbacks, disappointments, and unforeseen challenges. Without a clear sense of direction, these obstacles can lead to frustration, despair, or even the abandonment of our goals. But when our lives are guided by God, we understand that difficulties are part of a larger plan. We are inspired to persevere, to remain steadfast, and to trust that each challenge is shaping us, refining us, and preparing us for greater opportunities. Purpose gives us the courage to continue, even when the path is uncertain or difficult, because we know our steps are guided by wisdom far beyond our own understanding. Another significant aspect of purpose inspired by God is the alignment of talents and passions with meaningful work. Many people struggle to find fulfillment because they pursue goals that are misaligned with their abilities or calling. When we put God first, we seek to understand the gifts He has given us and how to use them in service of a higher purpose. This alignment ensures that our efforts are not wasted, that our passions are cultivated, and that our contributions have a lasting impact. When we engage in activities that resonate with our God-given purpose, work no longer feels burdensome or meaningless. It becomes a source of joy, satisfaction, and fulfillment. Putting God first also inspires a long-term vision. People who live without divine guidance often focus solely on immediate rewards, short-term pleasures, or external validation. This narrow focus can leave life feeling fragmented, chaotic, or unfulfilling. But when God is first, we begin to see the bigger picture. We recognize that our choices, actions, and relationships are all part of a journey toward a meaningful destination. This long-term perspective allows us to invest in what truly matters: spiritual growth, ethical living, meaningful relationships, and contributions that extend beyond ourselves. Each step is purposeful, each decision intentional, and each action aligned with a greater plan. Prioritizing God also cultivates a sense of responsibility and stewardship. When we understand that our lives have a divine purpose, we become conscious of the ways we influence the world around us. We recognize that our words, actions, and decisions affect not only ourselves, but also the people and environment we interact with. Purpose inspired by God encourages us to act responsibly, to contribute positively, and to live with integrity. We become mindful of the impact we have and motivated to make choices that leave a lasting, beneficial mark on the world. Another profound effect of purpose inspired by God is fulfillment. Many people achieve success, wealth, or recognition, but still feel empty inside because they are not aligned with their true calling. When we prioritize God, purpose becomes the measure of fulfillment, not external accomplishments. A life lived according to divine guidance feels rich, meaningful, and complete because every effort, challenge, and relationship is invested in a higher cause. Fulfillment is no longer dependent on external factors, but flows from the alignment of our hearts, minds, and actions with God's plan. Purpose inspired by God also fosters contentment and reduces anxiety. When we know that our lives have direction and meaning, we are less likely to be swayed by comparison, fear of failure, or uncertainty. We trust that God's plan is perfect and that our steps, even when imperfect, are part of a purposeful journey. This trust reduces stress and instills confidence, allowing us to live fully in the present while moving steadily toward the fulfillment of our God-given purpose. In conclusion, putting God first inspires purpose and direction in ways that transform every aspect of life. It clarifies priorities, aligns actions with meaningful goals, strengthens perseverance, cultivates fulfillment, and reduces anxiety. It turns ordinary actions into extraordinary contributions and gives every challenge, choice, and relationship significance within a larger, divine plan. When God is the center of our lives, we are not drifting aimlessly or living reactively. We are moving with intention, guided by wisdom, and participating in a journey of purpose that leads to fulfillment, impact, and peace. Begin today by prioritizing God in every decision, seeking His guidance in discovering your purpose, and allowing your life to be directed by His divine plan. When you do, every step becomes meaningful, every challenge becomes a lesson, and every moment becomes an opportunity to live fully in alignment with His will. One of the most profound ways putting God first transforms your life is by teaching you to embrace gratitude and contentment. Gratitude and contentment are not just polite attitudes or fleeting feelings. They are powerful states of the heart that shape the way we experience every moment, every challenge, and every success. Many people go through life focused on what they lack, on what could be better, or on the next goal to achieve. They measure happiness by possessions, achievements, or approval from others, only to find that these external sources never fully satisfy. Without God at the center, life can feel like an endless chase for something just out of reach, leaving the heart restless, anxious, and dissatisfied. But when God is first, a profound shift occurs. We begin to see life through the lens of His love and providence, and gratitude and contentment naturally flow from this perspective, transforming every experience into a source of peace and joy. Gratitude begins with recognition, seeing that every blessing, every opportunity, and every breath is a gift. When God is first, we acknowledge that our lives are filled with countless gifts, many of which we often take for granted. From the warmth of the sun on our face to the support of friends and family, from the ability to work and contribute to the simple pleasures of daily life, every moment contains evidence of divine care. By focusing on these blessings, we cultivate an attitude of thankfulness that becomes the foundation for contentment. Gratitude shifts our attention from scarcity to abundance, from what we lack to what we have, and from dissatisfaction to appreciation. It transforms our perspective, allowing us to find joy even in ordinary or challenging circumstances. Contentment grows naturally from gratitude. When we recognize the gifts in our lives, we are less likely to be driven by envy, comparison, or constant striving for more. Contentment is not complacency. It does not mean we stop pursuing growth or improvement. Instead, it is a deep, steady sense of satisfaction that arises from understanding that God is sufficient, that our needs are provided for, and that our lives are guided by divine wisdom. Putting God first allows us to trust that He knows what is best for us, that He provides at the right time, and that His plan is perfect. This trust cultivates contentment because we no longer feel the pressure to control every outcome or chase every desire. Putting God first also encourages gratitude in the face of challenges. Life is not always easy. Difficulties, setbacks, and disappointments are inevitable. Many people struggle to be grateful when circumstances are difficult, allowing fear, frustration, or resentment to dominate their hearts. However, when God is prioritized, we learn to see challenges as opportunities for growth, refinement, and deeper faith. Even in hardship, we can be grateful for lessons learned, for the strength gained, and for the presence of God guiding us through. Gratitude during adversity transforms our perspective, allowing us to find peace, resilience, and hope rather than despair. It reminds us that every trial has purpose and that God's care and love are unwavering, even in moments of difficulty. Contentment, too, is strengthened when God is first because we stop comparing our lives to others. Social comparison is one of the greatest thieves of joy in modern life. We look at what others have, what they achieve, or how their lives appear, and we feel inadequate or dissatisfied. But when God is our priority, we focus on our unique journey, trusting that our path, timing, and blessings are tailored specifically for us. We learn to celebrate the success of others without envy, to appreciate our own progress without self-criticism, and to find fulfillment in the present moment, rather than constantly chasing what someone else has. Contentment rooted in God frees us from the trap of comparison and allows us to live fully and joyfully in our own lives. Putting God first also fosters gratitude for the small, everyday moments that are often overlooked. In a fast-paced world, it is easy to take ordinary experiences for granted: a kind word from a friend, a peaceful morning, a simple meal, or a moment of laughter. When God is at the center of our lives, we begin to see these small moments as precious gifts. Gratitude expands our awareness and appreciation, turning routine experiences into blessings. Contentment arises when we learn to enjoy the journey rather than fixating solely on the destination. Life becomes richer, fuller, and more satisfying because we are attuned to the abundance that surrounds us every day. Another profound effect of gratitude and contentment is emotional resilience. When we cultivate thankfulness, we develop a mindset that can withstand disappointment, loss, or difficulty. Gratitude shifts the focus from what is missing to what is present, reducing anxiety, stress, and negativity. Contentment reinforces this stability by grounding us in trust and faith, ensuring that our sense of peace is not dependent on circumstances or external validation. Together, gratitude and contentment create an inner strength that allows us to navigate life's ups and downs with grace, patience, and hope. Putting God first also strengthens relationships through gratitude. When we recognize and appreciate the people in our lives, we naturally treat them with kindness, respect, and care. Gratitude encourages us to acknowledge the contributions, support, and love of others, fostering deeper connection, trust, and harmony. Contentment, meanwhile, reduces selfishness and envy, allowing us to celebrate others without resentment or comparison. Relationships become more meaningful, supportive, and joyful because we approach them with appreciation and generosity rather than judgment or desire for personal gain. Gratitude and contentment also encourage a life of generosity and service. When we recognize the blessings we have received, we are inspired to share them with others. Putting God first reminds us that all we have comes from Him and that we are stewards of His gifts. Gratitude motivates us to act selflessly, to help those in need, and to contribute positively to the world. Contentment ensures that our giving is not driven by expectation or obligation, but by a genuine desire to bless others and honor God. This cycle of gratitude, contentment, and generosity creates a life filled with purpose, joy, and divine alignment. Finally, gratitude and contentment inspire joy and peace. When God is the priority, we are no longer at the mercy of circumstances, failures, or external validation. We find joy in the present moment, contentment in what we have, and hope for what is to come. Gratitude amplifies joy because it draws attention to the good in our lives, and contentment sustains peace because it anchors us in trust and faith. Together, they create a life that is spiritually rich, emotionally balanced, and deeply fulfilling. In conclusion, putting God first encourages profound gratitude and contentment that transform the way we live. Gratitude shifts our focus to the blessings around us, even in challenges, while contentment provides a steady sense of satisfaction rooted in trust and faith. Together, they reduce anxiety, enhance relationships, inspire generosity, and cultivate lasting joy and peace. A life centered on God is a life that recognizes abundance, appreciates the present, and finds fulfillment beyond material or temporary measures. Begin today by prioritizing God in every aspect of your life, acknowledging His gifts and trusting in His plan. As you do, gratitude and contentment will flourish, transforming your heart, your mind, and every relationship, leading to a life of true joy, purpose, and divine fulfillment. One of the most powerful and life-transforming effects of putting God first is that it enhances faith and promotes spiritual growth. Faith is not just a belief or a set of religious practices. It is a living, breathing trust in God that shapes the way we experience life, interpret challenges, and make decisions. Spiritual growth is the ongoing development of our inner self, a deepening of our understanding, and a closer alignment with God's will and wisdom. When God is first, faith becomes the foundation of our existence, guiding every thought, action, and interaction. Without faith, life can feel uncertain, directionless, and overwhelming. Challenges can seem insurmountable, failures devastating, and setbacks discouraging. But when God is the center of our lives, faith becomes a steady anchor, and spiritual growth becomes a natural outcome, transforming how we live, think, and connect with the world around us. Putting God first enhances faith because it requires intentional trust. Faith is nurtured when we consistently choose to rely on God's guidance rather than our own understanding. Life presents countless situations where our limited perspective may lead us to doubt, fear, or impatience. When we prioritize God, we learn to turn to Him for wisdom, direction, and support. We begin to recognize that even when the path is unclear, God's guidance is perfect, and His timing is flawless. By practicing this trust daily, our faith deepens, becoming a source of strength, courage, and resilience. Every decision made in alignment with God reinforces the belief that He is active, loving, and trustworthy, which strengthens the spiritual foundation of our lives. Spiritual growth flourishes when God is first because it encourages self-reflection and awareness. As we seek to align our lives with divine principles, we are prompted to examine our thoughts, actions, and motivations. We ask ourselves difficult questions. Are my decisions guided by faith or fear? Do my actions reflect integrity, compassion, and humility? Am I relying on my own strength or on God's wisdom? This kind of introspection fosters personal growth, moral clarity, and deeper understanding. Spiritual maturity develops as we confront our weaknesses, embrace our strengths, and consciously choose to live in accordance with God's will. By putting God first, we open the door to continuous learning and transformation, moving closer to becoming the individuals we are meant to be. Faith is strengthened through experience, and putting God first creates countless opportunities for these experiences. Life is a series of challenges, tests, and lessons, and each one offers a chance to practice trust and obedience. When we prioritize God, we approach difficulties with the understanding that they are not arbitrary obstacles, but purposeful opportunities for growth. We learn to pray, seek guidance, and act courageously, even when outcomes are uncertain. Over time, these experiences build spiritual resilience, deepen trust in God's provision, and expand our capacity for hope and perseverance. Every trial faced with faith becomes a stepping stone in our spiritual journey, shaping us into stronger, wiser, and more spiritually mature individuals. Putting God first also enhances faith by reinforcing reliance on His promises. Scriptures, spiritual teachings, and personal experiences remind us that God is faithful, loving, and just. By making God the priority, we internalize these truths, allowing them to guide our decisions, actions, and mindset. When we consistently act in alignment with divine guidance, even when results are delayed or unclear, we witness the fulfillment of promises in ways that strengthen belief. Faith is no longer abstract or theoretical. It becomes a lived experience, reinforced by evidence of God's presence and provision. This experiential faith becomes a source of comfort, courage, and confidence, enabling us to navigate life's uncertainties with unwavering trust. Spiritual growth is further enhanced by the humility that comes from putting God first. Humility is the recognition that we do not have all the answers, that our understanding is limited, and that we need divine guidance to live rightly. Humility allows us to listen, learn, and accept correction, fostering growth in wisdom and character. Without humility, spiritual growth is stunted by pride, stubbornness, or self-reliance. By putting God first, we develop the openness necessary to receive guidance, adapt to challenges, and cultivate virtues that reflect His character. Humility and faith are intertwined. As humility deepens, faith strengthens, creating a cycle of spiritual development that touches every aspect of our lives. Another key aspect of faith and spiritual growth is the cultivation of patience and endurance. Life often requires waiting for results, for answers, for opportunities, or for healing. Without God, waiting can be frustrating and discouraging, leading to doubt or anxiety. When God is prioritized, we trust that His timing is perfect and that every season has a purpose. This trust nurtures patience, allowing us to endure trials, persist in efforts, and maintain hope, even when immediate outcomes are unclear. Spiritual growth occurs in the process of waiting, learning, and trusting, and every act of patience strengthens faith, deepening our connection to God and our understanding of His plan. Putting God first also promotes spiritual growth by encouraging service and selflessness. Faith is not just an internal state, it is expressed through action. When we prioritize God, we are guided to use our talents, resources, and energy in ways that honor Him and benefit others. Serving others cultivates compassion, empathy, and moral strength, all essential aspects of spiritual maturity. The act of giving without expectation, helping without seeking reward, and loving without conditions reflects a heart transformed by faith. Every act of service reinforces spiritual growth by aligning our actions with divine principles, shaping not only our character, but also our impact on the world around us. Spiritual growth is further enhanced by gratitude and mindfulness, which naturally arise when God is first. Recognizing His presence, provision, and guidance encourages us to live intentionally, to appreciate life's blessings, and to remain grounded in trust. Mindfulness of God's role in our lives fosters a deeper spiritual awareness, helping us see lessons, opportunities, and grace even in ordinary moments. Gratitude reinforces faith because it reminds us of God's faithfulness, while mindfulness nurtures spiritual sensitivity, enabling us to respond to life in ways that reflect wisdom, love, and discernment. Together, they cultivate a rich inner life that strengthens both faith and spiritual growth. Another important aspect of putting God first is that it fosters resilience in the face of doubt or temptation. Everyone experiences moments of questioning, fear, or uncertainty. Faith is not the absence of doubt, but the ability to trust despite it. When God is our priority, we are better equipped to confront challenges to our beliefs, resist temptations that compromise integrity, and maintain trust even when circumstances are difficult. Each act of reliance, each decision guided by faith, reinforces spiritual growth and strengthens our connection with God. Challenges become opportunities to solidify belief, and doubts become catalysts for deeper understanding. In conclusion, putting God first enhances faith and promotes profound spiritual growth in countless ways. It nurtures trust, deepens reliance on divine guidance, encourages self-reflection, cultivates humility, strengthens patience, fosters service and compassion, and reinforces resilience. Faith becomes a lived experience, not just a concept, and spiritual growth becomes a continuous journey of transformation, aligning heart, mind, and actions with God's will. By prioritizing God in every aspect of life, we develop the inner strength, clarity, and moral wisdom necessary to navigate challenges, embrace opportunities, and live a life of purpose, integrity, and fulfillment. Begin today by putting God first, nurturing your faith, and embracing every opportunity for spiritual growth. As you do, you will discover a life rich in meaning, guided by divine wisdom, and deeply aligned with the purpose for which you were created.